just coming from our table, we were just saying, you know, is what you're saying is we can't ever expect the government to do these things, so we've got to just work locally. But kind of, I'd like to ask, do you think there's any hope in pushing for this vision to be taken on at the national level by governments and political parties, or do you think that's just too much to hope for, so should we just forget it and try and do locally things? Or, you know, because it seems to me it would be much better if it could be espoused at a national level and government level, but do you think there's any hope of that, or would you just say, let's forget that, because it's never going to get us anywhere, and let's just do the local stuff?
I'd say it's not either or. I tell my students about the Goldilocks zone, which is waiting for governments to act or waiting for international agreement. If it happens, fantastic, encourage it and hope it happens, but don't wait for it. Doing things yourself from your own ethical choices is really, really good, but is that enough? Whereas working in communities and cities level perhaps is that Goldilocks zone, not too hot, not too cold, just right. So it worries me a little bit that if we get a Labour government, which I personally hope we will, they might be thinking that a government's going to come and solve everybody's problems, and Jeremy Corbyn is the lovely Santa Claus going to come over and save us all, which I don't really buy. Whereas if those of you remember the Big Society of Cameron that was launched, I think actually here, the problem there was that you can't expect poor people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. But in many places in Latin America they do, and they do very, very well. So I absolutely want government to help, and I think one of the interesting things is to find institutions that will help this go beyond an individual. So government, local authorities, housing associations, but my question to you might be, what might your churches be in this Goldilocks zone, where your congregations are places where people can support each other? So for me it's not either or, it's government please, but I'm not going to wait for them because I don't think they buy it.
Thanks very much, Pete. I did enjoy that. Very much over you, and I love the slides. Thank you. I come at it as a theologian who likes to ask the philosophical questions behind what we're doing and what we're valuing. And so my issue would be, we think we know what we'd like, what would be a better society. But are there any right answers? Because I go to churches where we sing hymns and say prayers and hear sermons about the purpose of human life and about the reasons why we've been put here. And that gives them, that's all based on the assumption that there is a purpose for life, there are right answers. Now, from a non-believer's point of view, if there's no moral authorities higher than the individual human being, so that what we want is all there is, then aren't we always going to have conflict between different people who have different desires? So for the last 40 years in this country, I don't think anybody disputes that the rich have been getting richer and the poor have been getting poorer. And if our only values are the ones that we've created, well, we are going to be governed by the people with the greatest amount of power at the expense of the powerless. And so I'd like to hear from you kind of how you feel we can get beyond that.
That seems to be a question in so many different registers. I'm not sure which one you want me to really work with, because I think there's a difference between people having different views and respecting the fact that people have views that you don't agree with, and feeling that that just means there's conflict and conflict and conflict and conflict. I think Britain is a much less violent place than it would have been 500 years ago. And 500 years ago, it was a lot less violent than it was 1,000 years ago. You just need to watch Game of Thrones to see what that's like. I personally, myself believe there's a fantastic song by Phil Ox called When I'm Gone, and it says, I won't be able to shout against lies when I'm gone, so I suppose I've got to do it while I'm here. And that's what I think. So I think it's in all of us to try to build the best world we possibly can. Where I have the issue is more where I showed you a picture of the 20-somethings out on Lark Lane on a Saturday night. And my own personal value system was that that's not the ideal life, but who says I'm right? They're having fun. They're enjoying their youth and beauty. Good for them. Have good fun with your life. I think it's more about creating a world where everybody can thrive in different ways. But we're never going to get one world, and it worries me a bit that perhaps the Jeremy Corbyns and the Jacob Rees-Moggs of this world think that there is one answer, and I don't believe there is. What I do think, and I'll just show you this quote, Jonathan, because I think you find this interesting. This is as somebody who's not religious, who's been reading a lot about the way that religious groups have been involved in this. And this is Jason Hackworth, who wrote a book called Faith-Based, which is about right-wing church organisations in the United States providing services for people. And he said, I naively assumed that both authors of this topic were basically like me, or like me. Atheist personally, but multicultural enough to find most incarnations of religion interesting in an anthropological sort of way. But I sensed a defensiveness amongst my religion scholar colleagues that seemed to belie this. They bristled at the way I had, in their view, denigrated the work of faith-motivated anti-poverty activists by spending too much time on the most judgmental, most conservative segments of the faith-based social services world. To be honest, and this was the bit that really made me cross, I don't know what to do with that sentiment. It's difficult to ignore the fact that the overwhelming political influence of the religious right on the US welfare state in the past 40 years has not been a progressive one. I think one assumption that people of religious faith are interesting anthropologically, and that you're going to be judgmental about people's views. So I would sort of put it back to you that what I think, or what we all think, there is no one answer there. It's how do we talk to each other as human beings in the 21st century and make this a better world, on the assumption that what I'm talking about, cooperatives and local money and an ecological worldview and a sane, humane, ecological worldview is what everybody wants, when they might actually want to go out and get drunk Lark Lane on a Saturday night and get a job at Amazon. I think there's more to life than that, but who the hell says I'm right? How arrogant of me to say that. If co-ops are so great, how come there's so few of them? Should we take sort of another 3 questions and then we'll go into the groups? Because otherwise I think I'll ask a couple of questions. Let's actually have 3 and then we'll answer them all.
Okay. Well, my question is, it's just a statement really. It's going back a few years ago. We had a chap called Sir Bert Massey who said, if you have an idea and your idea is good, but you put it to people and they say, that's okay, but they put up barriers for you. But if you believe in your idea and you think, you give them a possible solution of what your idea could be, and you have a solution based on it. So that could just be it. So we have to get things moving ourselves and showing people who are doubting, you can't do this because of this, because of this. and we're doing this, and we do something else, and it's just, we say to them, or, you know, that might encourage when people see it working, the government and other bodies will get involved, hopefully.
Makes it a lot late. I lived in Waterloo in the 60s and 70s, moved away in the 80s, moved to Czech. I lived there for 30 odd years, lifetime.
Can we use the microphone, please? Could you use the microphone, please?
Pardon?
Could you use the microphone?
Oh, whereabouts is it?
Thank you.
I was saying, I moved down to Liverpool in the 1980s, and I've been living over in Czech. Wife passed away, and I've come back to Liverpool again with my family. At that time, Lark Lane, in the 60s and 70s, early 80s, there was all tradesmen down Lark Lane, big family businesses, right at Bedworth Road, the shops are full length. And all that we got now are bars and eateries, and what's the name? Go right down, that they don't serve the public, nail bars, beauty bars, hairstylists, a couple of charity shops, they're doing their best, but really, the whole thing, the fabric of the whole area has deteriorated, I've noticed since I've been back, and it's sad really, because all them family businesses that are down Lark Lane, we have butchers, greengrocers, fishmongers, cobblers, and they've all gone. And all you're left with is this sort of consumer, feel-good sort of culture. Yeah. But what I'm saying is, I had a phone call just before from a granddaughter. She was asking for money, second week money, and she's in a full-time job. And their partner, both got education, they can't manage no more. It's turned out now that Grandad is having to keep my grandchildren with their head above the waves to help to pay the rents and the mortgage and the expenses, because the wages are not. They're not helping to keep their heads above the water. So how do you get the government to sit up and say, no, that people are working harder and harder and getting less and less and less? And I feel what they're headed for now is some form of there will be a lot of trouble, I'm afraid, is coming if people don't start looking up to people who are working their guts out to get nothing for it. And that's why society is going, I'm afraid.
Again, it's a comment, you might want to pick it up, I don't know. Can you hear me? Yeah, no. I think there's an issue, I think, with over-regulation, which was made worse in the Blair years, I think. In the 1980s, when I was in my 20s, I lived in Bristol. And there was a place in Bristol called the Demolition Diner. It was this big building which was taken over, I mean, you might have known about it, taken over by squatters. There was a restaurant in there. If you were homeless, you could go and bed down in there. It was a community. Well, you couldn't do that now because, you've been in a couple of weeks and they would have been in to evict you, and all kinds of legislation being thrown at anybody trying to do that kind of thing in the middle of a city. I think the irony of that in the bigger, more global scale is that that was one of the reasons, it was a minor reason, it was one of the reasons people voted for Brexit, because they were blaming the European Union, the European Parliament for imposing this legislation. We have to deregulate, we have to make it easier for people to do that list of things that you put there.
Should we, I'm just wondering, because it's now quarter past, should we I think what we'll do now is we'll, because they're all really, really good comments, but I think...
Take one more, we've got another theologian in the room.
I just wanted to ask whether your use of the word the natural world includes human life or excludes it. Because we often think of human life as being invading the natural world, rather than being a particular stage in the unfolding natural world, which I think is a much deeper, I mean, you get the point. But the last bit, for instance, referred to the natural world as that outside the human.
I see humans as natural. I see humans as natural, but we're tool-making natural humans, and probably too many of us. I remember a discussion I had, a very, very religious student doing a PhD with me from University of West Indies, who was a Seventh-day Adventist, and she was doing stuff about religion and the environment, and she explained to me the difference between ownership of the world and stewardship of the world. And she said, often we misunderstand that God gave the world to humans to steward, not to have dominion over, and that humans are just as natural as any others, and I absolutely think that, but I don't think that's the way we're brought up. We're brought up to see ourselves as the only ones that matter. We've got to think about species, so I'm with you on that.
I mean, the human is the stage in the unfolding thing in which you can not only be part of the story, but you can tell the story, and therefore be responsible for the story.
I'm with you on that. Okay, so I think because a lot of people want to get to know people on the table a little bit more, I just want to quickly remind you of what we're talking about. You know, my questions are, you know, how do we survive well with dignity given climate change and global injustice? And that leads on to questions of what do or should we consume and how much of it? How should we produce what we need, not what we want, covet or desire? How should we share with and encounter with others, other people, other species? Should we think about surplus in different ways rather than wealth and profit? How do we create a world worth living in and invest in the future? Which are all questions that yourselves as people of faith will already think about and say, yeah, that's what we discuss in our faith. But how do we build that world? So my question to you would be, are our churches places for prayer, for helping others, and for making a world that includes those not included so they can live lives with dignity? How can we use our churches and discussions in our churches to find more hopeful ways of seeing hope where there wasn't any before? And this for me is the important bit. For me, my socialist faith, my humanist faith makes this credible. Does a Christian faith for you make this more credible? And if it makes it more credible and we don't buy into growth and profit, and I suspect you wouldn't be here on a rainy day if you did think this wasn't a credible vision, how do we turn that vision into something better, given that we know how to make a world built on exploitation and profit, but we don't know how to make a world based on love and inclusion that's good enough yet? I say to my students, set up a co-op, and they say, get out of here. And there's a job I can get, I can see how I do that, but it's special people set up co-ops. Well, my faith-based groups would be where people talk together and say, I want to do something collectively, not individually. And are your churches places where people can come together that goes beyond ministering to the poor, and that's important, and goes beyond evangelism, spreading the word? Well, of course that's important, but can there become spaces to support community and solidarity beyond spaces of hope and redemption? And can there be spaces from which more hopeful economies can be built in practice? Now, a lot of you will be involved in food banks, really important. What other diverse economic practices are your churches engaged in, or could your churches be engaged in? I haven't had time to show you some of the stuff from Argentina where churches really are getting involved with working with people through those ideas of the presumption on the heart of the poorest. Can we build more hopeful economies in practice? Bearing in mind, not good enough yet doesn't mean never. So, what I'd like you to talk to is I got shouted at last time I did one of these events, and I think Steve was there. because I hadn't got you all at the beginning to greet and introduce yourself to your neighbours. So I'm not going to make that mistake again. So, you know, introduce yourself to each other as if you don't already know each other. What did you think of the talk? Brave question. Rubbish. How did it inspire you, or what are your reservations? And what does it mean to live well for you? And how do we include people that can't? How do we include other species, future generations? And in particular, like, how do you see your churches, or local authorities, or housing associations, or whatever, to support this on Merseyside, or in Liverpool, or wherever you're from, in our communities and churches, or ourselves through our everyday lives as we do that. So, thinking of that Cinderella level, yeah, what is not too hot, not too cold, just right. It's expecting the council to do this, not likely. It's doing it individual, not enough quickly. It's through communities and churches, the right kind of level. So we'll think about those questions, and then we'll have a final. We've got to be out for 4, haven't we? So we've probably got half an hour, and then some final closing comments. Okay, so if you could give you 25 minutes to have some good discussions. And if you want to ask me any questions, put your hand up and I'll come on over. All right? just my holiday snaps. I mean, stuff from my recent research. Obviously, I'm in the Lace Centre, and I don't need to tell you about Pope Francis and his argument that if we say thou shalt not kill, and capitalism kills, we need an economy based on solidarity and justice, and one that includes people and works to different rhythms. And the question there would be, how do we do that? And I would say that in Argentina, Francis, since 2001, we're going right the way back to the 60s, he will have seen the kind of concrete things that people are doing to move that forward. So this is, just show you some of the pictures. I was talking to a lady back there in the lovely rainbow jumper, and she was saying that some of her grandchildren, they don't have a lot of hope. They've been sent to the job centre and they've had a hard time, they can't find a job. Somebody else was saying that granddad needs to be sorting out the kids. Well, imagine if you're in some of the peri-urban areas of Buenos Aires, what it must be like having grandkids in a place like that. And what Argentines have done is they've said that, well, we can't go on strike because we don't have jobs. But what we can do is we can block the roads, because global capitalism is based on trucking stuff around. And this is popular power being developed. What's that there? This is the popular power by the Dario Santillán Piquetero group, and what they've done is they've taken over an old lorry park, and the young people gathered there. They've got a cooperative making t-shirts, they've got a school going on there, making bricks, they're doing all sorts of things over there. And that's a place that turns an isolated, unemployed person into a compañero, a comrade that's doing things together. Now, Keith, the health and safety there is bloody awful. So that's the kind of deregulation that we probably don't want. But yeah, it's the kind of space where people can do things. So when people were trying to close down one of the occupied factories, this is the movement of territory and land. They all marched together wearing their black and red anarchist bandanas, MTL movement of territory and land. They marched together. Now, I'm not advocating unemployed people from North Liverpool marching down Scotland Road wearing red and black bandanas. Well, I am actually. I'm cool. But I think that would be bloody marvellous. But it's not likely to happen. But this is what happens where people come together to say we are going to be angry about our situation, but we're also going to focus on developing our power to do things. So their slogan is walking together, we ask questions, rather than I know, I will tell you, you will do what we're going to do. And I think we can do a little bit of that spirit over here. This is in a different area. This is the Popular Assembly of San Telmo in Plaza Perego. It meets on Thursdays at 7 o'clock. And this is where people would come together and they would sit around at 7 o'clock. It's dark in Argentina at 7 o'clock that time. It was nice and sunny, talking about what the issues are. And what's incredibly amazing about that was how respectful everybody was. People kept their comments short and sharp, and they respected everybody, and they rotated it. Lots of women speaking, lots of young people speaking. So how we want to live together in this crisis. If we get chucked out of a Brexit and the economy crashes in a bad way, we might need some of these neighbourhood assemblies where people are talking together about what they want to do. This is in a tourist cafe in the colonial part of Buenos Aires. And this is what it looks like during the day, where you've got the tango dancers, and you've got market stalls, and you've got restaurants all around it. So that space turns from a tourist area into a place of counter-power, and alternative power in evenings, and it's quite marvellous. I loved this slogan. This was in the Don Bosco church hall, where there was a Barton network, and it said, "Have confidence and cast your nets into deep waters." Obviously, you will understand where that quote come from, and we'll see what was just underneath it. But that idea of having confidence in yourselves and understanding that when people get together, you are a net that supports each other. And actually, if you do cast your nets, you will find the waters are deep, and there are lots of resources in there for people to use if you have the confidence. Because we're told all the time that we can't do that, and our opportunities to be turned into a nice little capitalist wage slave, getting a job or setting up a business, which most people can't do. And I just thought that phrase was absolutely marvellous. Rebecca Solnit has written a wonderful book called Hope in the Dark, and it shows all the time when you get crises, people don't turn on each other, people look after each other. And that's what you saw in Argentina in that crisis. This is another part of it. This was Charlie, one of the organisations that organises the Barter Network. This was people who would come together bringing things they wanted to exchange with members of their community. And they set up lots of stalls. I'll show you a picture in a minute. But he was busy telling everybody what the values of this network are, which are that we cooperate with each other. We don't sell, buy low and sell high. We're not entrepreneurs that way. We're prosumers. We produce and we consume. We talk about ways of sharing. We bring to the market what we want other people will need. We only take what ourselves needs. We give other people a chance to consume. So it's a market, but it's not a capitalist market. It's a market that works to a rhythm that is based on solidarity and community and dignity, not based on cooperation. Just around the corner from there, there's a picture I show my students of people getting their hair done. So Argentines want to look gorgeous as well, and they spend just as much time as our early picture doing. But if you look at, these are people understanding how they can look after each other in the crisis. This was in the countryside, this was in the Andes, and you'll notice the faces of people. These are indigenous Argentines, but they were bringing things to share with each other. So they would say, I'll make pizzas, I'll bring vegetables, I will make bread. That's the kind of thing that will never be automated. People will always need to share things with each other. This is another image from a factory that closed. If a factory goes under, could it be that it's badly managed like Carillion, but it's fundamentally economically sustainable? Is it just the boss was lazy or useless or took all the profit out of it? And is it that the workers are the people that produce the wealth, not the boss? And this was a sewing place that was taken over by the women there, the Brookman cooperative, and they worked to their own rhythm, they would wear their own clothes, they would listen to music when they wanted to, if they wanted to stop and have a cup of tea. Argentines drink a lot of tea called mate, spend a lot of time talking to each other, working to a very different rhythm. It's not this Anglo-Saxon, neoliberal, North American, work from 9 to 5 till you drop rhythm. It was a rhythm based on how they wanted to work together. And I thought this was amazing that I went to a place where the council was working with a cooperative that was producing everybody's driving licences. And this lady here, she decided what the quality control of these driving licences would be. So this was a cooperative where the council had said, we are going to make sure that where we can, we will give our contracts to cooperatives. Why can't we have more of that going on there? And the value of the cooperative is not what profit it makes. As long as it washes its face, that's okay. It's how many people does it employ, and how do people work together with dignity. And this girl here was working with dignity. She controlled her work rate. So very, very different. And it's very esoteric. It's making driving licenses. It's not really being rocket science. So this is the quote I'll leave you with. This was Charlie. We saw a picture of him a little bit earlier, telling everybody what's it all about. And Charlie said, it's a matter of changing people's way of thinking. From that of the employee to that of the business person who runs a micro-enterprise, a producer. This means changing people's ways of thinking. They say, there are no jobs. I respond, there is no employment. There is work. There is work because there are needs to be met. And some of these we can cover with work. No? Live the spirits, stimulate production, services, the added value of recycled business. To see abundance where another sees poverty or nothing at all. And that's what he meant by casting the nets into deep waters and finding within our communities we've got all sorts of resources that we can actually use. Personally, for me, I think that's a nice place to end.